Just like yesterday, at the top of your page, write denominators cannot equal 0. That is incredibly important. Denominators can never equal 0. Our whole mathematical system falls apart. Now, look at the denominators. This 3 doesn't ever equal 0. I don't have to worry about the 3. The x cannot equal to 0. This one doesn't even have a denominator. What would the denominator on 2 be equal to? That would be 2 over 1. So x cannot equal to a 0. I don't need that other space there. What I'm going to do is I am going to multiply every single term by the LCD. What is the LCD for this problem? 3 times x times 1. Well, that would just be 3x. So I am going to multiply every one of my terms by 3x. It would actually be 3x over 1. Okay, what am I going to multiply by 3x over 1? I'm going to multiply the first fraction. And I'm going to multiply the second fraction. And I'm going to multiply the third fraction. Be sure to put the equal sign in the right place. I'm going to multiply every single term by the LCD, the least common denominator, so that all the denominators cancel out. This 3 is going to cancel that 3 because right here in that part right there, do I have any adding glue? In this part right here, do I have any adding glue? So I am going to cancel this x with this x. And this part right here, do I have any adding glue just in that section right there? So it doesn't matter. I don't have anything that would cancel anyway. So the 3's cancel. So what's left? Equal sign. The x is canceled. 3 times 4 is 12. Nothing canceled here. 2 times 3 is 6. And then it has an x. I need to solve that. There are no x squareds here. If there's no x squareds, I don't have to make it equal to 0 and factor. If there's no x squareds, I just combine like terms. When I do that, that's going to be 4x equals 12. What am I going to do with the 4? I'm going to divide by 4, and so x equals 3. Down here in the answer blank, I should not just see a 3. I should see an x equals 3. Now, is there any contradiction between this number and that number? Can x not equal 0 at the same time it does equal 3? Sure it can. And so that means in this problem, there is not an extraneous answer. In problem number 2, the first thing you're going to do is check out the denominators. X plus 1 cannot equal to 0. And x minus 2 cannot equal to 0. Now, I would expect by now that you can do this part in your head, and you can look at this denominator and say, I need to subtract 1 from both sides, and so that's going to be negative 1. And you could look at that, it's equal to 0, add 2 to both sides. I would expect you to start being able to do that in your head, and that would be one thing that you could skip, and I don't have to see that work. So,
1 over 2 times 1 over 2 is 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 1 over 2 times 1
Next, we're going to multiply all the terms by the LCD. What's the LCD here? Why am I writing it down 3 times? There are 3 terms. Every single term gets multiplied by the LCD. If there were 10 terms, I would have to write it down 10 times. We don't have one like that. Aren't you glad? X over x plus 1, x over x minus 2 equals 2 over 1. The purple is the original problem. The red is the LCD that we're multiplying by each term. Okay. The reason we multiply by the least common denominator is to cancel out all of the denominators. Next, the x plus 1 canceled out, so x minus 2 is multiplied by this x right here. And this x is multiplied by the x plus 1. Did anything cancel out here? Nothing canceled out, so I've got to multiply all of this together. Now I need to distribute. Distribute. I'm going to multiply this out first before I distribute the 2. If you multiply that out, you either have to use FOIL or a box problem. And that is what you would get if you FOILed it out. And what do these 2 terms equal to when you combine like terms? Okay, now I have some more like terms that I am going to combine. I'm going to combine this term and this term. And I'm going to combine this one and this one. So what do I get when I combine that? I'm going to have 2x squared, and when you combine those, you get minus x. Okay, and then I need to distribute on that one, and so that's going to be, I missed it, 2x squared minus 2x, and is that a minus 4? 2x squared minus 2x minus 4. So did I get all my signs correct when I put it over onto my next page? Okay, now I do have some x squared here, and so I need to get everything combined, but what happens when I do that? That cancels out. Let's go ahead and do this one also. Let's add 2x to both sides. This is going to cancel out. That's going to be x equals -4. So we didn't have to do factoring here because my x squared canceled out. So x equals -4. Does that contradict anything up here? And so that means there is no extraneous solution. The only difference between what we did yesterday is yesterday we had 2 terms and this has 3 terms. We're still going to multiply everything by the least common denominator. This common denominator is x minus 1, x plus 1. We're going to multiply the first fraction by the common denominator. We're going to multiply the second fraction by the common denominator. We're going to multiply the last fraction by the common denominator, and I factored out that denominator. Make sure you put your equal sign in the right place. This cancels this. X plus 1 cancels x plus 1. X minus 1 cancels x minus 1. I told you I was going to forget it. What did I forget to do first? Look at the denominators. This denominator can't equal to 0. If you add 1 to both sides, you have that. This denominator can't equal to 0, so x cannot be equal to -1. I told you if I didn't do it at the beginning, I forget. Okay, 1 multiplies by x plus 1 because that didn't cancel out. 4 multiplies by x minus 1, and then we have a 7, and everything else canceled out over there by the 7. X plus 1 plus 4x minus 4 equals 7. Is anything squared? Then we do not have to factor. We have to just combine like terms. And so I'm going to go over here and do that. That would be 5x, and this would be minus 3 equals 7. Solving it by adding 3 to both sides. And then what are you going to do with the 5? You're going to divide both sides by 5. And then what is x going to be equal to? Does that contradict anything up here? No, and so there is no extraneous answers. We are going to skip problem number 4 and go ahead and look at problem number 5. They have kindly already factored problem number 5 out for you. This denominator can't equal to 0, so x can't equal to -2. I will in a minute. Let's go ahead and complete this problem. We're going to multiply by what? Least common denominator. We are going to multiply everything by the least common denominator. The first fraction equals the second fraction, the last fraction. Then I get out my canceling pencil. This cancels this. This cancels this. All of this cancels that. What's left? X plus 3 times x. That's what's left in this term. X minus 2 is left in this term, plus 5. This needs to distribute. X squared plus 3x. Equals x. What is this when those two combine? Do you see an x squared? That means that I am going to need to factor this. So I had x squared plus 3x equals x plus 3. Did I copy it down correctly? And so I need to make this side equal to 0 so I can factor it. That's going to give me x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0 when I combine like terms. It seems like we're getting better at factoring. The first term times the last term is negative 3. Those are the only factors of 3. To make this equal a plus 2, it's going to have to be like that. Since this is 1, I can use the shortcut factoring. When it is factored, either the first factor equals to 0 or the next factor equals to 0. Solve this by adding 1 to both sides. Solve this by subtracting 1 from both sides. There are 2 answers. Are they really? So, x equals 1. But I already wrote here that x cannot equal to negative 3. It can't be equal to 3 and not equal to negative 3 at the same time. And so x equals negative 3 is an extraneous answer. I can't have it equal to negative 3 and not equal to negative 3 at the same time.